Hello everybody, I'm Tony Craig. This is F1 Grandstand and this is your daily Formula One news. And yes, we do have a lot to get into tonight. Aston Martin face major issues with their gearbox. Lawrence Stroll has got a face like thunder. Rob Smedley talks race engineers. Graeme Lowdon and Cadillac heaps praise on their drivers. Red Bull chief designer Craig Skinner leaves the team. And of course, if you saw my video from earlier today, the Racing Bulls up for sale. Yes, we've got a lot to get into. And if you're a Formula One fan, of course, you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Smash a like on the video if you enjoy it. And if you do subscribe, make sure you've got the bell all icon ticked so you can choose which pieces of content you interact with. I'm going to say hello to the chat. Oh, full house tonight. I can see you all in there. We've got Semmers in there, Crackite's in there, Gemma, Queen of the Chat's in there, Kyle's in there, Peter's in there. Oh, everyone's in. Joe Set's in there, Old Guy Chat. Drop Tune, Dawley, Manshir, Reevesy, and Jaman all in there. Yes, don't you worry, Jaman. We're going to be talking about that as well. So yeah, it's been quite a busy day on the old news front. The first story we're going to get into is, we'll talk about Aston Martin first. And I hope you've all watched my video from earlier today entitled Racing Bulls for Sale. We will be covering that in this video as well, but we'll be coming to that a little bit later. But first up, Aston Martin. What is going on? Not good news. Not good news. Aston Martin face 6-month gearbox redesign as 2026 high rev requirements test fragile part. Well, we all know this is the first year that Aston Martin have had to produce and manufacture their own gearbox, with Honda manufacturing their power unit. It does make me wonder, why didn't Honda make the gearbox? Because obviously, when Aston Martin were a customer team of Mercedes, they bought Mercedes gearbox as well. But that's probably because Mercedes have a team and they had to make a gearbox anyway. But yeah, this is the situation. Excuse me. Because the trend that's emerged over the past week, it's the high revs needed to recharge the battery on every lap. And this has added strain on the gearbox, and it's putting Aston Martin under even more pressure. But we know it's not just Aston Martin. Mercedes, George Russell said the same thing. The unexpected way that the drivers need to drive these cars to keep the turbo spooled up and to recharge the battery means that they are having to aggressively come down the gears, and third gear corners are now first gear corners. And Aston Martin are suffering because of this. And apparently Aston Martin's gearbox is a little bit too fragile. I don't think they're going to be the only one. I think we're going to see quite a lot of gearbox failures in the early part of 2026. Now, this report's come from Marker, and they shared more details about just how much trouble Adrian Newey's team are in ahead of next month's Australian Grand Prix. Now, after Aston Martin switched from Mercedes power unit to Honda, it meant they could no longer use the Mercedes gearbox, as we know. Now, unfortunately, this is exactly the wrong time to be building a new gearbox for the first time, given the new regulations and the unprecedented demand being put on them by drivers who are dropping down into first gear to charge the batteries. And it gets a little bit more techie than that for Aston Martin. It's believed that Aston Martin's gearbox is too fragile to withstand the massive negative torque demand. And F1 experts have told Marker that rebuilding the part would take 6 months. We haven't got 6 months. Aston Martin face an added complication after the final test in Bahrain, that they must submit their development schedule for the gearbox sprockets that are going to be used for the rest of the season. Therefore, Aston Martin will have to fine-tune their car without all the information needed, and because no other team uses their gearbox or power unit, they have no data to compare it with. And Marker also reports that Honda's PU has massive vibrations when revving up. They could tell that from the data from Bahrain. They think it could be gearbox related, but the homologation deadline's coming up on the 1st of March, and it's believed that this will be impossible for a new engine to be built before the first race in Australia. No shit, Sherlock. Honda's GPS data mode made for worrying reading, and while the engineers in Japan are working around the clock to bring improvements, Aston Martin may only benefit from them at the Canadian Grand Prix due to an FIA rule allowing teams who are lagging behind to bring updates. And of course, they are talking about the additional upgrade options. Oh, bad news. So here's the question that I put to Adrian Newey. I said, Adrian, can you build a new gearbox before Melbourne?
No, I can't.
He said, no, I can't. I said, come on, Adrian, a new gearbox, that's what you need. Can you do it?
No, I can't.
He still says, no, I can't. This is not good news. Not good news for Adrian. So what are they going to do? Well, hopefully they don't have to redesign an entire new gearbox. Hopefully they can improve the gearbox they already have in play. But this problem's not just an Aston Martin problem, is it? You know, Mercedes, George Russell said the same thing. Nobody has anticipated just what the driving style was going to be with these new regulations. And it was actually Max Verstappen that pioneered the aggressive downshift to first gear on what really would be a third gear corner. So I think all teams will suffer, but will all teams need to redesign their gearboxes? Because none of them are going to be able to do it in time. Thank you so much. And by the way, get your super chats in, guaranteed to be read out. Reese Cup says, is it me or does it seem like Ferrari is the only ones that has their things together, for God's sake? Reese Cup, I'm going to give that a love, because absolutely true. When we look at Ferrari, their gearbox ratio seems to be better than anybody else. They're a team that doesn't seem to be having to aggressively go down the gears as much as Mercedes, Aston Martin, and all the others. So I agree with you. I agree with you, Reese Cup. I think Ferrari, so far, are looking like they've got a handle on these new regulations better than anybody else. Their engine seems pretty damn bulletproof. They ran the same engine in Barcelona testing, did a lot of laps, a lot of miles. Ran the same engine in Bahrain, did a lot of laps and a lot of miles, and it was pretty damn bulletproof. And they're the only teams gone with a steel cylinder head. So have they also managed to get their gearbox right? And not to mention, it's Ferrari who have seemed to have, they recognised the turbo spooling was going to be a problem, and they have a mechanical solution for that. So even their starts are better than everybody else. Ferrari are looking good. Ferrari are looking good. Thane, got your super chat in there. I can see it. Looks like Ferrari are the most prepared for this regulation. Even if Merc have more BHP, it seems Ferrari is a more complete package. Starts too. Exactly, Thane. Another big love on that super chat. Ferrari. And I know, obviously, our community know that I did a lot. Quite a lot. No, I did an awful lot of Ferrari bashing in 25. And now, honestly, I'd rather be driving a Ferrari right now than a Mercedes, even if Mercedes have got a bit more BHP, like Thane says. It's the Ferrari that do look like the more complete package. Exciting times if you're a Ferrari fan. Obviously, we can get excited about Test 2 at Bahrain this week, where we will see cars bringing out more race pace, doing more quali lap times. It's going to get interesting in Bahrain. Make sure you join me for the watch-alongs. So yeah, good points there, Thane. Good points there, Reese. Get your super chats in. Mario says, I think everyone has problems. But I think you're right, Mario, but I think specifically this problem, I don't think anyone anticipated just the way that the drivers would need to drive these cars aggressively downshifting to first gear when we should be in a third gear corner. And it seems like that's the quickest way around a lap, because that's the best way to recharge the battery, to have enough battery to hit top speeds on the straight. I mean, this isn't Formula One as I like it, but this is what we've got. And the drivers are trying to work out a way how to pilot a fast lap and have enough battery. But here's the thing. It's not just about one lap, is it? That's just qualifying. We're talking about consistently, lap after lap, for a 70-lap race. Can these gearboxes handle it? I think it's a massive question mark. And I think all teams might have to make adjustments, apart from Ferrari. But I do think that I need to get on to the next part of the Aston Martin story, because you know how I've been talking about Bahrain test, and you know how I gave you a little bit of a snippet. Tubby George, my guy in the paddock, said Lawrence Stroll played bloody hell with the Aston Martin engineers in Bahrain. And I think some people were thinking, Tony, are you making it up? Well, it's actually now getting reported. Lawrence Stroll had a face like thunder after seeing Adrian Newey's Aston Martin in Bahrain test. I told you I wasn't making it up. And it's not just me. So Lawrence Stroll had a face like thunder leaving Bahrain after seeing the 2026 Aston Martin on track. Stroll gave his engineers a real dressing down after testing in Bahrain, leaving the paddock after day 3. He was seen with a face like thunder, and presenter and journalist Simon Lazenby noted, he said via Rolling Start, the American F1 podcast, did you see Lawrence Stroll leaving the paddock at the end of day 3? I don't know if you saw Ted's notebook, but he had a face like thunder. I think that's the story of testing. The story of testing is that the dream team was assembled, right? Adrian Newey at the helm. They had Andy Cowell. They moved him aside, moved him onto power units. They've got Enrico Cardile from Ferrari on chassis. They've got the new factory up and running. They've got the new wind tunnel up and running. Everything looks best in class. And they got a car that Lance Stroll said is 4 seconds off the pace, right? Like it came out of the box and everyone went, ooh, that's a nice design. That's different from everybody else, but doesn't care what it looks like. It'll be down to see how Adrian and the team can turn that around. And I wonder how quickly they can. But he is the greatest designer in history. We talk about it. It's obvious. It's a cliche, but he has won more titles than anybody. He'll just apply himself. And in Fernando, I think he's still got a master who will be really, really clever with the way that he can work out how to get that car smooth over the new regulations, get ahead of the other drivers. But unless he's got a car underneath him to do that, it's going to be very, very difficult. And that's what Sky Sports presenter Simon Lazenby said. So yes, I wasn't pulling your plonker. Lawrence Stroll was furious at Bahrain. He did go into the team and give him a bollocking. And now the pressure's on. I wonder how Lawrence is reacting to the news that your gearbox might need a redesign. I wonder how Lawrence is going to react to that. But it's true, he's not happy. Josette Owens, I just saw your chat there. Face of Thunder, the sequel to Days of Thunder. Gemma says that's like paying for a Hermes bag on Vinted only to find they lied about it in the description. Semi bag of spanners. Yeah, I mean, look, it's gonna be as Mario says here, next chapter is homologations from the fuels. That's interesting. Yeah, that's still to come. Apparently Aramco are struggling, all the fuel manufacturers are struggling with that. So yeah, it's all going on. Hey Sulo, I can see you in there, buddy. Kyle says Adrian should join Ford and Hornet as a new owners of V-Carb. Oh, we're coming to that. I hope you all watched the video earlier. Racing Bulls for sale. It's a good one. It will go into more detail, but I'll be touching on that in tonight's show as well. So yeah, Lawrence Stroll, not happy. Obviously agrees with Lance Stroll's evaluation of the situation, and 4.5 seconds off the pace is not acceptable even in testing. There's a lot of pressure on the team. Will there be improvements this week in Bahrain for test 2? I think they need to find some time. Fernando Alonso has been doing some positive PR. We talked about it in the shows this week. He thinks they're going to find, it's not going to be a couple of tenths here and there. He thinks with changes to the power unit that they're working on in Honda, with other tweaks to the setup, it's seconds of time. So yes, I am expecting Aston Martin to be quicker in testing. Big question mark over the gearbox though. Really is. So yeah, that's what's going on at Aston Martin. Hey, Richard Lawton, I can see you in there watching over from USA. Drop tune, just throwing money at the situation doesn't always work, at least not quickly. That's what I agree, Drop tune. Like, they've assembled a dream team, but they were 4 months behind the curve. I keep reminding everybody about this. They are still cooking. And do I have confidence in they'll get it right? I do. I just think this new problem, if the gearbox is too fragile and they can't find a quick fix, then yeah, there's going to be some problems. But they won't be the only people with that issue. Kyle says Aston Martin is great at picking paint colours. That's what Lance Stroll said when asked about something positive in Bahrain. He said the weather's nice and the colour of the car's great. Potluck says, but that's normal for Lancey, baby. At least 4 seconds off the pace. Come on, he's not normally 4 seconds off the pace. He's quick in the wet. Ask Gemma. But he's obviously, Lawrence is thinking, look, I've invested £1 billion into this team. New facilities, big hitters running the team, C-suite people. He's put a lot of money in. New facilities, new wind tunnel, new simulator, like a new factory, officers. Come on, boys. I've given you everything you asked for. You're not giving me what I want yet. Let's see what happens in Bahrain this week for the watch-alongs. Richard Lawton, Lewis for the win in Australia. Now, that's not too far-fetched. Not too far-fetched. Ferrari have got to be out. I think they'll be in front. Dropchin says, yeah, that's my first summer. They're going to ruin Alonso's last season F1. I don't know. I think they'll catch up. I think they'll catch up. Potluck says, don't start with the wet. Yeah, he is quick in the wet, though. Lance Stroll's quick in the wet. Come on. So, yeah, that's your Aston Martin update. I'm going to bring in, before I get into the stories, I'm going to touch on the story from earlier today, from the earlier video. Racing Bulls for sale. What was that video all about? Now, this came out from F1 Oversteer today. Christian Horner given intriguing Racing Bulls takeover opportunity by 2029 regulation change. Now, ignore the Christian Horner element for now, and Thane will be happy that I'm not pushing Horner in this story. The important thing from this story is this quote. Mark Hughes, respected F1 journalist, was speaking to Motorsport magazine about Horner's future, but what came out in this conversation is interesting. He said there's another intriguing possibility for Horner. There's a regulation change coming in, I think in 3 years' time, whereby an owner can't have two teams, which means that Red Bull, somewhere down the line, is going to have to sell the Racing Bulls. And this has all been because, look, we all know Zach Brown, his comments, he's constantly banged the drum about having an A and B team on the grid. And he's right, because it wasn't that long ago, was it, when this happened? Red Bull, it was only just in winter, so December, Red Bull and Racing Bulls just exchanged 40 staff members. The FIA regulations currently stipulate that Red Bull and Racing Bulls must function as independent teams, but recent behind-the-scene moves paint a picture of one larger organisation. Of course, they're operating as a larger organisation. And according to Motorsport Italy, there was a transfer of personnel between the two teams in December. 40 staff moved in one direction or the other. Now, of course, that indicates a larger organisation. Of course, that's a massive benefit. You've got 4 cars on the grid where you could potentially affect the outcome of a race. But more importantly, operationally, if Red Bull can have the pick of the staff from both teams. Yes, of course, that's an advantage. So what have the FIA done? Well, from Zach Brown and other team principals' complaints about the A-B team situation for Red Bull, well, this is what Red Bull have done for 26. And is it enough? Well, as you can tell, no, it's not enough. It's the start of a move towards fully independent teams in Formula One by 2029. So stricter separation. The rules will enforce stricter segregation, including IT system separation. So you can't prevent design sharing. That means that Red Bull and Racing Bulls can't all be working from one big computer server where you can, oh, let's have a little look what Red Bulls are doing. Let's have a look what Racing Bulls are doing. So they've separated the IT. Does that mean those guys aren't sharing data and ideas? I'm not too sure. And how do you police that even? Now, this is the interesting part. The 5th place rule. So starting in 26, any customer team like Haas or Racing Bulls that finishes 5th or higher in the Constructors' Championship will be required to produce their own parts within 3 years, making them independent by 2029. This seems to be the number that everyone's talking about. By 2029, they want the teams to be independent. That doesn't mean we won't have customer teams for power units. Power units are treated separately. It's the other parts. Like if you look at Haas, they're 80% Ferrari. So they run the Ferrari suspension, Ferrari aero, Ferrari, obviously gearbox, Ferrari power unit. And it's worked for Haas. But don't forget, Haas aren't really going to be a problem because Haas look really good with that Ferrari power unit. They have come on leaps and bounds. They look like they could be a definite 5th place finisher in 26. But they've got a new title sponsor with Toyota. And Toyota have their own roadmap. Even though they're not saying they want to become Works Team Toyota, trust me, they do. Even though they're saying they don't want to be a power unit manufacturer, trust me, they do. They've just built a new driver-in-loop simulator for Haas. And guess what? It's backdoor data collection on that Ferrari power unit. Of course, that's going to be brilliant for Toyota when they do decide to launch their power unit. They get to collect data for the next couple of years whilst they're developing that power unit from the Ferrari power unit. And good news for Toyota, that Ferrari power unit looks pretty damn solid so far. So for Haas, it's not really an issue. But for other teams like Racing Bulls, it's time. They do need to separate from the Red Bull brand and become a standalone team. They will, of course, still take the Red Bull Ford power unit. So this is what my video is all about today. Who will buy Racing Bulls if they have a compulsory sale enforced on them by the FIA? Well, obviously people talk about Horner, but Horner's already locked into a deal. It will take something catastrophic for Horner not to complete a purchase of those 24% Otro Capital shares of Alpine. I'm not saying it couldn't fall down. Deals fall down at the 11th hour all the time. Do I think Horner's deal is going to fall down? No, I don't. So where does that leave us? Well, you got to talk about the price. The price for that Racing Bulls team, if Alpine have been valued, and they have, at £2.4 billion, and they're a 10th place team, what is the Racing Bulls worth? Well, it's got to start with a 3, hasn't it? You're talking probably $3 billion for that team. What could make that a more attractive purchase price, and who would slot into that new team owner position? And look, when we see, and I talked about it in the video from earlier, when we see how Cadillac are poking the bear of Ford, I think the logical answer is that Ford step up their involvement. Ford have got to watch Cadillac become the sweetheart Formula One team in America. They're not going to like that. You got Dan Tauris, boss of TWG, that run the Cadillac race team, saying Ford, it's just purely a marketing exercise, their involvement in Formula One right now. And then you've got Bill Ford, grandson of Henry Ford, come out going, no, it isn't. If anyone's a marketing exercise, it's you, Cadillac. You don't even have any GM employees. You run a Ferrari engine. You can tell that he's getting annoyed at these comments, and it's going to build. And if Bill Ford is anything like his great granddaddy, and we all know what happened there when he was challenged and he wanted to go to Le Mans and beat Ferrari, well, yeah, you poke the bear of Ford, Ford are going to come after you. And listen, I'm here for it. It's great for the sport. So my prediction is this: 2029, Ford buy Racing Bulls. They buy VCarb, and it becomes a Ford F1 team They still work collaboratively on the power units with Red Bull, but it delivers that degree of separation. They will want to beat other teams, and they will want to beat Red Bull as well. The FIA are happy. It's a big brand back in Formula One. It still leaves room for another big brand for the 12th team in Formula One. And we get one of the greatest Formula One rivalries that we could hope for. The giants of Ford and General Motors Cadillac going to battle. And it creates so much interest. From America, it's a win-win all round. So that's my prediction. But if you want a full breakdown of Ford's involvement, Ford's achievement in Formula One, you need to go and watch my earlier video. It's a good one. It's only 11 minutes long, and it's called Racing Bulls for Sale, and there's more details that go into it. Check out that video. But that's a little roundup of that story. I'm going to get into the chat. I see Jimbo's in there. I guess Ford could buy VCarb. Exactly. Jim Clark, our resident F1 engineer, he says, let's sort the facts. Is Honda capable of manufacturing a redesigned gearbox casing in titanium at rapid speed? I say yes. Honda has its own foundry in Japan where they can cast anything they want. That's why I love Jim Clark being part of this community. Jim Clark, our resident Formula One engineer, bona fide. Haven't thought of that. Going back to the earlier story of Aston Martin's issue with the gearbox. If it's a redesign from a casing point of view, you're right, of course. I mean, Honda, a titanium at rapid speed, that could be a solution, right? Because if Honda are trying to solve a vibration issue, which they believe is coming from the gearbox, maybe they're already working on it, Jim. Good point. Yeah, good point. Love it. Thank you, Jim Clark. And see, Crackite's jumped in as well. Oh, Jim Clark also said a mix. The carbon is done in-house for the titanium bits, outsourced to a high-level casting supplier, which are normally in the USA. Crackite says, Thane, I watched an interview with Behrman, great lad, super potential, but he said he has biggest struggles with explaining to his engineer what his sensations were in his ass. That was last season. Ooh, interesting. So vibrations seem to be what we're talking about here in the chat. But thank you so much, Jim Clark. Keep your insights coming. Dawley says, TC, do you think that's why Adrian didn't mount the rear suspension to the gearbox? It could be. I mean, everything Adrian does, I believe, is with an aerodynamic bias. He's all about controlling the air. So I wonder whether that is an Adrian decision or whether that would have been an Enrico Cardile decision, who's really focusing on the chassis. Actually, everything's an Adrian decision. I believe, Aston Martin. He's got great people heading up the different, the different areas, like Cowell for the power units, Cardile for the chassis. But ultimately, I think Adrian Newey does make the final decisions. Thank you so much, Dawley. And don't forget, get your super chats in, guaranteed to be read out on air. And if you are watching for the first time, subscribe to the channel. Do smash a like on the video if you haven't already. It makes a big difference to the success of this stream. So smash a like on it if you haven't done it already. And yeah, let's get on to the next story. So that about rounds up a quick roundup of my early story for Red Bull Racing Bulls for Sale. But we need to get into, we've got a lot in this show tonight, guys. We've got a lot to get through. Rob Smedley. What's he been saying? Rob Smedley said this. He's been talking about Lewis Hamilton's race engineer situation. What's he said? So the former race engineer, Rob Smedley, claimed that when the race engineer is asked a question, he should be able to answer the question immediately. We all saw Adami in Hamilton. We're checking, right? We all saw that. So Rob Smedley was obviously Felipe Massa's race engineer at Ferrari, super experienced race engineer. And he was talking to the High Performance podcast, talking to them. And this is what he says. He said he was asked about how important, what knowledge should the race engineer have? He said the former race engineer claimed that those in the same role should have enough knowledge to answer a driver straight away. I honestly think it's 50-50, he explained. when asked how much of the race engineer's role is working on the brain of the driver and technical skills. From what I know of other sports like football or rugby, it's always about 50-50 split when you work with athletes. In a Formula One team, the race engineer is effectively the head coach for that driver, so you can't turn up with no idea about the technical side of the job. It's really important that you understand how the car works, how the driver interacts with the vehicle, how you optimize the whole package. But if you don't understand that there's a human being in the car, an athlete with all the flaws that we mere mortals have, then it's never going to work. Now, referring to a radio message in 2025 when Hamilton joked that Adami should make a cup of tea while he waited for his response to a question, Smedley added, if those kind of comments are happening on the radio, the relationship isn't fully formed, and that's where it can become unhealthy. And by the way, it's the job of the race engineer to know enough about the car and be across their work so when the driver asks a question, you can answer quickly. It pains me when I hear, we'll get back to you. This isn't a damn call centre. The driver's trying to perform at 10:10 while driving at 200 miles per hour. Answer him and give him confidence. And if you respond like you need to go ask someone else, those tiny moments erode trust and that relationship becomes tense. The Ferrari engineer in question has had a long, successful career, and he was recommended by Lewis by Sebastian Vettel. He had a great relationship with Vettel and a lot of success, but sometimes it's like my story with Felipe in 2006. It doesn't gel and it doesn't work. So Rob Smedley really sort of shining a light on the importance of that race engineer role. The reason why I wanted to bring that up today, not only is it topical and it came out today, is because last night's show, we talked about how Fred shuts it down, how he's shutting down reporters from asking questions, while Fred is now really trying to minimize what he thinks is the importance of that role. We're a team. It doesn't matter. Team principles change every year. Race engineers change all the time. The team still continues. Stop asking me about Lewis Hamilton's race engineer. And I think this is actually just backing up what we talked about last night. That approach doesn't work. The race engineer is important, and Fred Vasseur needs to solve that problem and announce who Lewis Hamilton's race engineer is going to be very soon. So it's really just to back up what we were talking about yesterday. I'm going to go to the chat. Crackite says, so Potluck says Adami just wasn't a fit for Lewis. Yeah, he wasn't a fit for Lewis. And I think he's probably still heartbroken about the breakup with Carlos Sainz. Smooth operator. I think Adami's just heartbroken about it and it just didn't work. Gisette, thank you so much for your super chat. I love this. It might still be Luca. Maybe he will be training with Santi. He'll be definitely on the pit wall with Santi. He really knows the car and has acclimated to the Ferrari vibe. Look, honestly, Gisette, thank you so much for your super chat. And I agree with you 100%, Gisette. I feel that Luca Diella, for me, is a good choice. He knows Hamilton. 4 years working as a performance engineer with Hamilton at Mercedes. Ferrari then bring him over from Mercedes to be a performance engineer for Hamilton. He's now working with Santi, who's an experienced race engineer, who is Hamilton's temporary race engineer. He's in a good place. So I think what's going on is what we said yesterday. There's 3 candidates. I think there's Grosjean, who's on garden leave coming over from McLaren, and he was already going to come over from McLaren as a performance engineer. That deal was already done. There was no talk of him being Lewis Hamilton's race engineer until this season when Hamilton parted ways with Adami. So I think there's 3 options. I think it's Luca Diella, who would be my pick if it doesn't work out with Santi, and Grosjean, because there's no difference really for me between Diella and Grosjean, because neither of them have done the job before. It would be a promotion for both of them. It's a step up. The only guy that's done the job before is Santi, who's doing the job right now. And he was Kimi Raikkonen's race engineer. And let's say this, what happens if they're all having a jolly nice time, right? We get to Melbourne, the Ferrari's competitive. Hamilton and Santi are vibing. They've also got Bahrain to vibe as well. If I'm Hamilton, I'm like, listen, I know Grosjean's coming in. I know we've got Diella, but this is working with me and Santi, the experienced race engineer. We've got a vibe going on. Maybe he should just try and work out a deal to make Santi stay in that role. But it's all conjecture. Let's see what happens in Bahrain. Let's see what happens in Melbourne, actually. If by some magical moment that Lewis Hamilton wins in Melbourne, or at least a podium, maybe the race engineer gets resolved. Maybe it's Santi in the job. Maybe. I don't know. Crackite says, I wonder if Lewis is already working with Cedric Michel Grosjean because he's technically on gardening leave and they can't admit it. I wonder how strict gardening leave is. I know that he can't physically go and work in the factory. Does it stop them having phone calls? But how much can you gain from a phone call? Like, the only really thing you get, how you get to know these guys is get them on the pit wall, get them on the headset, put them in the pressure cooker, because that's what it is, right? You've got Grosjean and Diella. How do they operate in the pressure cooker of a race where battery management is key? And the reason why I like Diella, by the way, it's what is Diella's specialism? Yeah, it's power units. Diella is across power units, and battery management is 50% of that. So do I think in the current regulations, if anyone should get promoted, you know, I think Diella looks like he's, if battery management is going to become the biggest part of this relationship during the race, Diella looks like he's got some good experience to bring to the table. But it's the pressure. How do these race engineers operate when, you know, the driver's balls to the wall, 10-10, needs information right now? Can they answer the questions? Like Rob Smedley said, can they answer the question in the moment? Or do you get an Adami response, we're checking? What? No, give me a freaking answer. I'm doing 200 miles an hour. Tell me, I've got, you know, Charles Leclerc or George Russell, like within 0.3, right on my tail, in my slipstream. I'm asking you a question. Can I boost or not? Right? Like, the pressure's gonna be severe. And we need to see them in under those environments. You could put these guys in and they could completely crumble, couldn't they? Right? Jim Clark says, I think Lewis is capable of being his own race engineer. Kimi Raikkonen, I know. Kimi Raikkonen, leave me alone. I know how to win a freaking race. Yeah, I know, Jim Clark. That's what I was saying about Santi. Like, Santi being Kimi Raikkonen's race engineer, that can't have been easy. I love Kimi Raikkonen, but I can't imagine being his race engineer. Well, it might have been super easy because Kimi's like, don't talk to me. But that when he asks you a question, you better know a damn answer if you're Kimi Raikkonen's race engineer. But I think that that's the point, isn't it? The driver race engineer is unique. Every driver has their own vocabulary. Every driver has their own amount of information they want to hear from their race engineer, and they have their own way of working. And that needs to be a magical situation, right? To get the best. So I think Rob Smedley's shone some good light there. And I think if you haven't seen the stream from last night, which is entitled Ferrari Shut It Down, go and watch it. We go into some good detail on that situation. But yeah, if you have just joined us, don't forget, do smash a like on the video. It makes a big difference to the success of the stream. And we're going to get into the next story. We've got quite a few to get into tonight. Here we go. So the next one tonight is, we've got Graeme Lowdon. praising Gemma's favourite, Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. Now, what's he been saying? He praised Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez instant, super accurate feedback during testing. Now, they chose to sign Perez and Bottas. And these guys are veterans. They had their Formula One debuts in 2011 and 2013. And this is what Lowdon says about the involvement of these two drivers. It definitely complements, because the great thing is we're getting accurate feedback straight away. And this was from the first week of testing, Barcelona and Bahrain. These guys are so experienced with multiple different teams, working with multiple different engineers and different cars, different power units, different chassis. And yes, I know the 26 car is very different, but when a driver's giving you feedback in particular about handling and everything else, we are not wasting any time at all. We're getting super accurate, thoughtful, valuable feedback straight away. That was fundamentally what we were looking for. Quick as well. We've had a few little bits and bobs where the run plans have been squeezed and there's some FIA tests and you don't get a lot of time to do stuff. We haven't actually done any real performance runs yet, but you saw yesterday that Valtteri went out on some C3s and only had one lap because of the red flag procedures. But he was immediately able to switch it on. That's what you want for an F1 driver. Super accurate feedback mixed with fast, really, really fast. And we are so happy from that point of view. Now, I want to go back to why this is cool. Because when we were talking about all the way back in July last year and the whole Cadillac story grew and we were talking about who's going to be the Cadillac drivers, what we felt they should do, and also we predicted before anybody else, we told you that the rumours were true. It was going to be Perez and Bottas. We were the first to break it and we were right. And Lowdon has made the right choice. Brand new team to the grid, going with experienced drivers. This is going to be like adding fuel injection into their upgrade program. And I'm getting excited about Cadillac. I am. I'm getting excited about the noises that are coming out. And how happy are they that they chose the Ferrari power unit? Good work for them. Good news for them. And having two experienced drivers means you get two lots of great feedback and you get a rapid development program. Cadillac have come to play, and Cadillac and Bottas and Perez have got a lofty target. They want to move up the grid, but I can tell you, I know for sure what Bottas's target is. Bottas is gunning for a podium in the first season in the Cadillac. I think that's an ambitious target, but if anyone's going to do it, I think Bottas can. So yeah, it's an interesting situation. Lowdon made the right move. Cadillac delighted with Bottas and Perez. What do you think? Was it the right move? I think so. DT, my Bottas moustache manifested reality. Yes, DT. Great to see you in there. Yes, Giuseppe, Ferrari engine. Oh, Giuseppe also says about when he forgot to tell Lewis he got a track limit violation the first time and then told him he got the second one. Lewis snapped. Tell me, man, when I got the first one. Exactly. It doesn't work. It didn't work. I'm glad they're gone. Jim Clark, more upgrades in the works, 100%. Marty Davis, welcome to the chat. Caddy has Simon Pneugaard as a sim driver. He's a whiz on the engineering side. Miss him in IndyCar. Yeah, good signing for Cadillac. Cadillac, for me, have not made a bad decision in the setup of this team that I can tell. I think they chose the right drivers. I think they chose the right power unit. Now they've got Mark Hines in there as well, Lewis's former manager and a racer himself. He won F3. He's been around the paddock for a long time, super experienced, and he is the head of the driver. He's the chief driver strategy officer or some bullshit name like that. But he's basically responsible for the driver strategy. He's a good signing for Cadillac, let me tell you. And Cadillac just aren't making bad decisions at the moment. Just not making bad decisions. And they're ambitious. They're fighting talk. They're poking Ford. They're gonna goad Ford into that works team, probably buying Racing Bulls. That's my opinion. And yeah, I'm so excited for Cadillac. And if you're watching, you're a Cadillac fan, let me see the support for Cadillac in the chat. Oh, so we've got Alimantado. Welcome to the chat, my friend. The high revs to maintain the turbo spooling, I can foresee problems. They should have last year's engine with this year's chassis. Well, it's ambitious, right? One of the biggest major regulation cycles we've seen. And welcome to the community, Alimantado. And yeah, it's ambitious what they're doing. And you're right about the turbo spooling. It's a problem. And that problem leads to another problem. It's the ripple effect, and it's the gearbox problem. Are these gearboxes going to be able to survive with the aggressive downshifting needed to keep the turbo spooled? Third gear corners going into first gear corners. We've talked about it a lot in the beginning of this show. About Adrian Newey's problems at Aston Martin. And yeah, you're right, Alimantado. There's going to be problems, unforeseen problems with these regulations. Now, tomorrow, we might get some solutions. Tomorrow, the FOM are meeting. The FIA are having that meeting. And the key agenda points are Mercedes compression ratio trick. Is the Mercedes engine illegal? Second key point, battery. Can they get more battery at the start of the Grand Prix to allow to stop having to wait 10 seconds for the turbos to spool so we get more safer starts? Plus, the big one is, can the drivers have more battery over the lap? Can we get rid of battery management completely? Right? Take that away so we don't have to drop down gears to recharge the battery in a way that's going to put more pressure on the gearbox, in a way that's going to slow the cars down at the end of the straight with aggressive clipping. Like, none of us as fans want that. So we're going to get some answers, hopefully tomorrow after that meeting. But make sure you tune in tomorrow night, 7:30, for our live news show, because I'm expecting to have some news coming out from that. Hooked on Classics. I want to see Haas on a podium. Haas, I will tell you right now, Haas will get a podium next. Haas will get a podium. Haas will get a podium. Wendy Morgan, I see you in the chat there. Welcome to the chat. Go Oscar. Go Oscar. Yeah, Oscar fan there. Jess Court, onboard generators. Could be an answer. I mean, I'm expecting to see some answers today. I mean, tomorrow after the FOM meeting. It could get, you know what? Tomorrow's night show there could be a lot of juicy stuff. Will Mercedes engine be deemed as legal? Or will they have to build a bridge for them to, bring a legal engine by a certain time point? And all their customer teams. It's going to get techie tomorrow. It's going to be very interesting. Old guy chat. Oh, Reese Cup with a super chat. All your super chats guaranteed to get read out, guys. Reese Cup says, so do you think with Ferrari and Audi being the only ones using the new fuels, will that affect everyone else real speed? Yes. If it is yes, definitely. If you look at Aston Martin and Honda and Aramco, every touch point and design point of that power unit has been with the specific fuel designed for that engine in mind. So when each team runs their own fuel, which is specifically designed for their power unit, that will bring a performance advantage for sure. We're not going to fully know exactly where these teams are at until Melbourne. We will have more of an idea in Bahrain. They will be doing some hot laps and we will be seeing the wick turned up on the engine. But truthfully, qualifying March the 7th, Melbourne, is when we are fully going to see all drivers, all teams revealing themselves. Everybody's convinced Mercedes are sandbagging to a certain extent. Red Bull powertrains look great on the battery management side, but even Red Bull could be sandbagging. So yes, but going back to your question, 100% Reese Cup, we will not see the real true speed until all components are being used, including the fuel that's designed for their engines. Yeah, we've got Neil. Go Cadillac. I think they're going to do better than most people think. I think Cadillacs are going to improve quicker than most people think, from where they start to where they finish at the end of the season. Anthony Ford says, "Are you doing free practice tomorrow? Just wish I know so I can tune in." So my streaming for Bahrain test will be Thursday, Friday, 3 o'clock. No, I'm going to start early. 2:30 GMT will start so we can talk before we get the live pictures. So 2:30 GMT on Wednesday. On Thursday and Friday. I won't be able to stream the live pictures tomorrow because I'm not here. I'm at work, unfortunately. So I will do a roundup of it in the 7:30 show GMT. But Thursday, Friday, we have got watch-alongs, which is going to be very exciting. So that's, excuse me, what is happening over on the Graeme Lowdon Cadillac update. I've also got an update about chief designer Craig Skinner leaves Red Bull. This is quite interesting. If you don't know who Craig Skinner is, he's been at Red Bull of 20 years. He's part of the dream team, Horner, Wheatley, Newey, etc. And yeah, he's moving on. But where's he going to? Well, that's the question mark. So he joined in 26. He was really an integral part of Red Bull's success through the glory years. And what's happening is everyone's asking, where is he going to go? Because obviously Newey left Aston Martin, Horner's left Aston Martin, Wheatley left Aston Martin. Oh yeah, chief strategist Will Courtney moved over to McLaren. So he was part of that crew. Very successful. And he's left. Now, this is pure conjecture. And I know people like Jaman and other people in the community have got into this. Why has he left? Yeah. Why has he left? One, I've not heard it's any personal reasons. I've not heard of any teams he's going to. But I do know this. If he is going to another team, he will have garden leave, like all the other people, which could be 3 to 6 months. Now, this is pure conjecture. He is a Horner person. And Jaman and a couple of other people have pointed this out. Do we think Craig Skinner could be going over? He was the chief designer at Red Bull. He was Newey's protege. Now, Horner can't get Newey to come to his new project. Is this one of Horner's first hires when he gets in place over at Alpine? I would say it's possible. Horner, Skinner, very close. Horner can't get Newey over to design him a car, but he can get Skinner. Skinner's got to finish his garden leave just about the time that Horner might be in place as an owner over at Alpine. Now, I can't confirm it. I have no official reports on this. I just think it's interesting timing. But let me know what you think in the chat, because exactly, Gemma's jumped right in. Who else's gardening leave will end about the same time? Yeah, his old pal Christian Horner. You've got to consider it's possible. We got to consider it's possible, right? It is possible. So yeah, I don't know, but we're throwing it out there. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that is pretty much how we're going to round up tonight. And if you are watching on replay, get in the chat and tell me what you think. Craig Skinner, could he be heading to a Horner project which isn't even announced officially yet? I don't know. I think Drop Tune's in there thinking it could be possible. Jim Clark says it's super fun, the Australian Grand Prix. you get to point out to your missus what the hell piece of shite you were making on Christmas Day. Jim Clark, speaking as an F1 engineer, working over Christmas to try and get a car ready for round 1 of the new season. Absolutely. Absolutely, Jim Clark. Josette says he's waiting for Horner to buy Alpine. Is that deal already done, all but announced? Because of the contractual obligation that Horner has of not actually being able to be a team owner until, I guess, you know, I think it's April. So yeah, Reevesy is doing my garden and ain't leaving until he finishes it. Reevesy. Yeah, could be true. Could be true. Anthony says, another good show. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your continued support, Anthony. Yeah, it's been fun tonight, guys. It's been a good one. Don't forget to smash a like on the video if you forgot before you do leave the stream. Again, do not miss tomorrow night's show. I am expecting big news after the FIA and Formula One management hold this meeting tomorrow, talking about all of the big issues: battery, clipping, overtaking, starts, Mercedes compression ratio. Is their engine legal? There's a lot we're expecting to come out tomorrow. You do not want to miss it. Set your clock, 7:30 GMT, for the live stream. Thank you so much for all your super chats. Thank you so much, everyone, all your support. It means the world. And if you haven't watched my video from earlier today, please go and watch it. You need to go and see it. It's Racing Balls for sale. I think you will like it. Thank you so much. I'm going to see you all tomorrow night. Ta-ta.